Hey there. Welcome to the Pine Island Experience podcast. I'm Joanna Anderson with my husband, Trygve. Each of our episodes will be conversations with fellow Pine Islanders.
The goal of our podcast is to share with you our experiences, what we have found to be fun, and what makes the Pine Island experience so unique.
Oh, yeah, I do lots of work for Pine Islanders and some for Lee County, but mostly for Pine Islanders. And I like that because chances are we are friends or we will become friends. And it's Pine Island. It's just really easy to work with people. They are, if they've come to me, they've heard about me from somebody else if I don't know them. And it's just I get a lot of referrals on Pine Island, word of mouth sort of things.
In this episode, we welcome back artist and designer Nancy Koucky. Today, Nancy takes us inside her business, NRK Designs, where she blends her artistic eye with graphic design to create everything from book covers and children's picture books to branding, brochures, and marketing materials. She shares her secrets and practical advice on building a strong brand. And now, here's Nancy. Well, Nancy Koucky, welcome back. It's lovely to see you again. We love the episode with you and Chuck. It's season 1, episode 14. People might want to go back after this and listen to that because that tells your whole lives up to this point. But one thing we didn't talk about business, your NRK Designs.
Yes.
And that's why you're here today. We're excited about talking about that. So welcome. Thanks for coming.
Well, it's always a pleasure to chat with you.
Can you tell us about the business and how did that come about? At what point did that come about? Because we didn't talk about this before.
It evolved from me doing brochures for our gallery business. This is back when we owned art galleries. Me not wanting to pay somebody else to do it. And I was good with the software. But this is when software, like websites, were front page, and I was working in publisher. And I just slowly became more involved in it and learned more about it. But I think what really took it over the top was after Hurricane Charlie, the SBA would not give us a loan to rebuild our property because neither one of us had a steady job. We did not have a paycheck. So at that time, we'd been doing some part-time work for one of Chuck's pottery students who also owned an animation company. And I asked if I could work full-time for him because I'd been doing some small things. And I think that's what did it, is that I was now sitting at a computer all day learning animation, which I loved. It's like somebody was paying me to go to work and play. And that's where I learned Photoshop.
Okay. That's a tough software to learn.
And the animation programs were like a CAD program. 2008, that business dissolved because that was when the market crashed and their clients were big developers who were ceasing their work. So I went back to work at home. We had a number of art galleries and on the island at that time, I think there were 12 of us. So Peggy McTeague and I, Peggy owned Wild Child Gallery, decided that we were going to produce the Guide to the Arts on Pine Island, which I did in publisher the very first year. But when we sent it to the printer calls me up and said, you need to learn InDesign. And InDesign is Adobe's publishing program. And I self-taught myself InDesign, and now I live in InDesign. I build all the ads, the brochures, business cards, magazines, books. I do it all in InDesign, which is integrated with Photoshop and Illustrator and Acrobat.
And as an artist, how would you say your artistic background influenced your design?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I would have to say my degree's in art history, looking at other people's artwork throughout the ages gives you an eye for composition, for balance, simple things like if you turn a painting upside down and it still works, that is a good painting because it's not just about what you're seeing, it's how it's laid out. And I have lots of people who can attest to this. I am very picky about where something's positioned. I'll say, oh, not enough white space, too much white space, move it a pixel to the left, move it a pixel to the right, or this would be way more interesting if it wasn't centered on the page, if it was off the page. And I think a lot of that came from just looking at famous and not so famous people's artwork for years.
No, I remember in photography, taking courses, they said, go out and look at other photographers' works. And I thought, really?
And find out why you like that other person's work. What is it about that makes you like that painting better than the one on page 52? And that tells you a lot about how your designs, where you can begin your design.
So you kind of touched on the importance of the layout, and I love the, push it a pixel this way or that way or too much white space. Do you find a fascination with people wanting to have stuff centered?
Oh.
And you're trying to show them that that's the least probably appealing position?
Exactly. Or something is very small. When I always tell businesses, your logo doesn't have to be this tiny little thing, particularly for islanders, there's some really cute logos. Make it big. And people don't want to read a lot anymore, so make your logo big, have where you are, who you are, what you do, bullet points, how to reach me. And that's it. So yes, no, don't center that logo.
So there's probably some variability, but what's your approach to product? And it probably depends on like if you've worked with the person before, but how do you kind of attack it in general? Like somebody says, I want something done. Is there like a generic approach that you take with them, or is it?
Now, I'm going to ask them if they already have a website, I'm going to say, show me your website. And I ask them if they like their website. If they don't have a website, I'll say to them, send me pictures of 5 business cards that you really like. Send me, what colors do you want in it? Keep it down to 3. I basically put them to work. I'll send them a font sample sheet, but you never give them give anybody more than 6 choices. Doesn't matter who it is. You just don't give too many choices.
And is all this then phone, email, Zoom, or I assume if it's local, then possibly in person or some combination?
It's a combination. Not a lot on Zoom. It's mostly email. I mean, many of my clients I've never met. They've heard about me through someone, and I'll say, send me your logo information. I always give them plenty of chances to, I'll do 2 preliminary products, and I'll say, if you like something in A and you want to see it in B, let me know. So they don't actually have to meet me. A lot of times it's easier, especially if they have a sketch of what they want. Then I can actually look at it and say, it might look better if this weren't centered, blah, blah.
So it sounds like it's fairly iterative because your idea of what looks good and their vision of what or how they want the business represented aren't necessarily going to mesh right up front.
Correct. If they don't like what I do, they're the boss. But I also will have to say, every designer is different. So if they show me an ad they like, that I always use auto companies, and that's probably, it has nothing to do with the auto industry, but they're very, very busy ads. There's lots and lots of cars, and there's big splattery things that say, sale or whatever. I don't do that. So if you show me something that looks like that and you want it to look like that, I'm going to recommend somebody else. Because I'm not going to make them happy no matter what I do. And it's not anything against them nor me. We just have 2 completely different styles.
Is it kind of a less is more approach?
That's my approach, is definitely
Okay.
less is more. I like bold colors. I no longer like the use of black. There was a stage where my business card was a black background with a beautiful magenta organ on it. I would never do that again. So things evolve and change, but I do tend to like simple and bold.
Do you think that's part of what psychologically do you think that helps with the memory or the impression then that design leaves? Because if there's too much to look at, I would assume that what do you take from it?
I had not thought of that, but I think you're probably right. And if somebody wants me to develop a logo for them, I always point out Apple, Nike, McDonald's. It's an M. It's a swoosh. It's a partially eaten apple, and everybody knows what they mean. So keep your logo super simple. And I tell them, imagine it being embroidered. You have to be able to embroider your logo. Because I've seen gorgeous logos, but they're literally watercolor paintings, and they're not going to translate well. So I always encourage simplicity.
Yeah, particularly in this day of merchandise, if you get successful, how do you have that complementary merchandise in addition to the business if it's something that can't be reproduced easily?
Exactly. And this is a day of swag.
Yes.
You want a logo that you can put on a mug and a ball cap and a pen. You want it all. So
Can you think of a project that was really challenging or really challenged you, I should say? Not.
I will tell you two of them, and they're current. One was a cookbook, which, it's all about the food. And so it was the challenge of making it very easy to read the ingredients and the directions, but making the images of the food be really, really important. And yet having some design flair. So it wasn't just a picture of food and a recipe. That was a challenge. I enjoyed that challenge. I'm working on a book now that I am not enjoying the challenge. It's more like a textbook. So it allows for very little creativity, tons and tons of tables, a full-blown index, footnotes, endnotes, bibliographies. It is a challenge, and I am going to make it happen, but it is definitely not my favorite.
I would assume sometimes you're working with people that have never done marketing materials or logos before,
Right.
to put like FPO stuff, and it blows them away. You're just trying to show them this is where we'll put your photo, or this where we'll put this, for position only kind of stuff. Because I know
Right.
that like a lot of times when people get into that, that just drives them crazy. Or if you put in a picture and you say, we'll pick a better picture, but I don't like that picture. No, I told you that's not.
I haven't run into that too much unless I use placeholder text, because placeholder text looks like Latin.
Oh, the lorem ipsum, yeah.
Yes. And because I'm showing them, just like you say, so I'll have a brochure. I don't have their copy yet. So I've put in either gray boxes for the positioning or what they've given me, but they'll say, but this is in Latin. So now I have learned that when I'm sending them an email, what you're going to see, this is placeholder text. When I do the positioning, I will write inside the box. This is your headshot. This is the front of your store. And I have it. It's been pretty well received.
Yeah, because I think people want the stuff but it's easy. You don't understand that you're kind of familiar with the parlance of the design work. They're used to the end product, but that intermediate area there can be a little bit confusing because it's a little like learning another foreign language almost if you've not done it before.
And there is a dance to it. I purposely will not send anybody a completed project. And if I'm doing branding, for example, I've done your brochure, I've done your rack card, I've done your ads, I've done your business card. I will purposely not have it complete because they need their input. I need their input, but they really need to make it theirs. And so things will be sort of, and I'll say, this is a draft, but I find that I have a more satisfied customer if they are allowed to say, no, I really don't like that text there, and so on.
Well, it sounds like the work that you're doing too is you ask them up front, send me things you like. That's very smart of you, because I can't imagine if you would do 3 different designs and say, now, which one of these do you like?
Right.
That would be overwhelming.
It is, and it's not going to work.
No.
What I find fascinating is frequently I'll get 3 things back that are 3 very different things. So then I'll call them and I'll say, what is it that you liked about A?
Right.
And, we'll put that in with C and make that happen.
So you try to get their information out of them, up front.
Right.
So then you know what they like.
Right. Well, but even then, sometimes once they see it, they realize this isn't what I want. Let's start all over. That doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen.
Okay. Well, let's talk about book design. I can't imagine how hard that must be. How about covers? What makes a cover stand out?
Well, in this day and age, you want your cover to be recognizable as a thumbnail, because when you are going to a website to buy the book, right, you need to have it. And you also have to think about what it's going to look like on Barnes & Noble's bookshelf. So your title should be large and towards the top. And then depending on the artist, depending on the author, they may or may not want their name big or whatever. The imagery on the front should always allow space for that title to be big and bold at the top. On the back cover, at that point, there's rules. You have to have your ISBN number. You should have your publishing company there. There's certain rules, and those rules are lately being changed by automation. So if you put the ISBN barcode in the wrong spot and it's being shoved through an automated system, it's not going to read it.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, they tell you can put your barcode anywhere you want on the back of a book. That will be changing.
So you'll have to look out for that.
Yeah.
And then speaking of children's books, how does design change when it's a children's book?
Oh, I think children's books are fun because you can put the text all over the place if you want. They're very colorful. Usually they're very colorful. I like them because children's books tend to not be the normal size. They're not they'll be an 8x8 or a 10x10 instead of the usual novel size, which is a 6x9 or 5.5 by 8.5. So that allows for a lot of creativity. You can have blank pages in a children's book much more easily than you can, because you're going to make it a big color splash. They're always fun to do.
Sounds like it's fun.
Yeah, I like doing
Yeah, you probably enjoy that when someone gives that to you.
I do.
Do you have a favorite book project that captures your style, would you say?
No, I really don't, because I let what I am given command the style. So there's going to be a big difference between a novel and a textbook or a cookbook, like I was talking about. I always ask for a synopsis of the book so that I don't make a huge mistake by putting a blonde-haired, blue-eyed woman on the cover of a book about a dark-haired, brown-eyed woman. The titles can be deceiving. So I have to know, is this an adult's book or a child's book or a young author's book? And, so my style is really dependent on what I've been given. And it's always a challenge. I may be doing the same thing on the computer over and over again, bringing it in and formatting it, but it's always different, which is the part I really love.
Sure.
And the same with a business card, though. It's a standard size, but you can make it very, very different from one.
Mm-hmm.
How would you describe the benefits to creating that strong brand?
It's huge. Everybody knows, not everybody, can't even, I mean, there are so many, when you think about driving down the road and you see McDonald's and Burger King and Shell and all these companies, you know what that is. Driving 55 miles an hour down the road, you know what's coming up. And I encourage people to have a brand that stands out that much. And I encourage them to keep their brand legible at going 55 miles an hour down the road. You know, don't have tiny text. If your brand is simply an image, like we'll go back to Shell Oil. So it's a shell, but down below it, it says very boldly Shell. And it just works. Ours probably is an example of a very poor logo. We use the Fibonacci curve. Easier. And it disappears going 55 miles an hour down the road. So the font that I've used for our name is bigger and bolder. But you constantly have to think about, will it look good on a letterhead, but will it look good on a sign?
What would you say are maybe the most overlooked parts or pieces of a good marketing design? Like,
this is going to sound silly. Contact information. People want to tell you all about what they're selling, but you should never, ever have to look for their phone number, website, not necessarily who owns it, hours. You know, especially in retail, they're all about how cool it looks, but where are the hours? You've got to have your hours up there.
if somebody's wondering, do you think it's possible to build a brand on a budget, or do you think it's more so you build that memorable 50 mile per hour memory for people, and then the work that they do then, supports or builds the brand on top of that recognizable?
I would say do the recognizable part of it first and build your brand around that. Again, if you're starting from scratch, I would ask the client to please provide me with logos that they like. And if they provide me with a logo that I don't think works, I will tell them why. If they want to continue with that, fine. But no, I would have to say the logo, that brand is first. And then you add color. And in this day and age, it used to be that you never tampered with somebody's logo. But now you're building a logo so it can be vertical or horizontal. And they call that stacked when it's vertical. You want, have a tagline, but the tagline should not be part of the logo, et cetera, et cetera. And I think there's a much larger awareness of that now than there has been in the past.
You mentioned you don't know all your clients, or, it's just an email relationship. Have you also been able to do work for in and around Pine Island and Lee County?
Oh, yeah. I do lots of work for Pine Islanders and some for Lee County, but mostly for Pine Islanders. And I like that because we're, chances are we are friends or we will become friends. And it's Pine Island. It's just really easy to work with people. They are, if they've come to me, they've heard about me from somebody else, if I don't know them. And it's just I get a lot of referrals on Pine Island, word of mouth sort of things.
How does living here on Pine Island, does it impact your work?
Oh, yeah, because I don't have to have an office. I have a bedroom in my house. My clients can come to my front door. There's a deep informality about it that makes it an ease of working. They know they're going to get emails from me at 10 o'clock at night. No, they do not have to answer them at 10 o'clock at night. But but it's much, every once in a while, I think about graphic designers who have an office. And I seriously don't get how that works, because I think working from home, I can get up and have a cup of coffee with Chuck at 10. I go back to work. If I'm really on a roll, I don't have to be gone at 5. I mean, I seriously cannot imagine having an off-site office. I think it would put a barrier up somehow.
It's not personal with them,
Yeah.
too, when you were saying that. They know I'm sending in at 10 at night. Well, they know me.
Yeah.
I don't have to,
And when I'm filling out forms for people, how many employees do you have?
Yeah.
I forget I'm an employee, 1.
Well, we didn't talk about AI.
No, I'm willing to talk about AI.
How do you think that's going to influence what you do moving forward?
I am not adverse to AI. I use it as a tool. I do think it could really hurt a lot of illustrators. I will have to say that. Because in an instance where an author might be hiring an illustrator to do just the right cover, now we're going to go to AI because of budgetary reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And you cannot possibly duplicate, well, I was going to say you can't possibly duplicate in AI what you can in an illustration, but you can, and that's the sad part. I think photographers are the ones who are going to have the most trouble. And I've noticed this because I use stock photography. And when I go onto a stock photography site, I will tell you half of what I pull up says it's AI generated. And it's very good photography. I do not find that with illustrations. But again, it's a tool.
Oh, I did want to ask you about the Potter's Guild. Will that be starting up in this? Do you have a date
yet?
Yes,
it's the second Saturday in November. I have forgotten what date that is.
Well, that's okay. We can figure that one out.
And it goes through April. In the past, we tried to expand it to October, but the first year we did that, Hurricane Ian hit. And the third year, it's just like it's not meant to be. So we start in November.
And May is too hot.
May is too hot.
Yes. Excellent. And how can people find you? We were talking about that, your contact information. What's the best way to reach you?
I would say we have multiple websites. If you want to reach me for design, it's nrkdesigns.com. And if you want to reach the studio for Chuck's classes or any of the collaborative work that Chuck and I work on, that is KouckyStudios.com.
Easy.
It's easy.
Well, thank you so much. It was such a joy to see you again.
It's always nice to see the two of you.
Well, I felt bad we had skipped NRK design. But now I'm happy because you're here.
Well, and it would have been a really long conversation.
Yes. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We hope you enjoyed our Pine Island Experience podcast. If you have any ideas for us, people to interview, or any comments, please feel free to email them to us at pineislandexperience@gmail.com. That's pineislandexperience, all one word, @gmail.com. Don't forget to like us, and you may subscribe to this podcast using all the major catchers like Apple iTunes, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. Thanks again for listening, and remember, island life is a constant vacation. We'll see you on the next podcast.